Hi, this is Melinda Thielbar, and these are the results to our online video viewing survey. So first order of business is thank you to everyone who took the survey. We really appreciate your time. Second order of business is a couple of standard disclaimers. All the opinions you are about to hear are my opinions. They certainly don't reflect my employer's or anybody else's. The second thing to keep in mind is that the survey design and the sampling scheme are not scientific. So they may not be representative of the population under study, which means making any generalizations from what I'm about to say is not a good idea. Keep that in mind as we go forward. These are some interesting results, but they're certainly not the last word on anything. What we were trying to do for the survey was to take a look at some common wisdom about online video content, such as video content is the most effective content for online marketing. Effective as in it will get you to buy stuff. The other thing we were interested in was that people are right now spending a lot of time and energy on online advertising, partly because they think broadcast advertising is not going to be around for much longer, partly because, again, they think video content is very effective for online marketing. There's one other factor that we were interested in, which is the idea that if you email someone a video, they are much more likely to watch it than if they see it in social media. That an emailed video carries a higher weight in their minds as something they might want to see. So we were interested in seeing if that was actually the case. Now, why we asked the group we asked is that if you're designing an early survey, often you will do that with an expert audience. Richard's Facebook and Twitter followers tend to be interested in the entertainment industry. My followers tend to be interested in analytics. Friends of Steve tend to be interested in everything. So when we get someone into the survey who's gotten there from a link posted by Steve Burnett, that tends to be a diverse group with a lot of interests, a lot of technical interests in particular, as we expected. So an expert audience that's knowledgeable about the entertainment industry, as we expected, a lot of the best information we got was in the free responses. And we really appreciate everyone who took the time to comment on these survey questions themselves. That would put us in a position to create a much better survey down the road if we were to spread this out to the masses, take a really careful sample to try to make some generalizations about a population. Okay. First and foremost, first question, who has the most friends? Obviously, Richard has the most friends. I am not hurt. It'll be okay. The overwhelming majority of the sample came from folks who'd gotten there through a link either from Richard's Facebook or Richard's Twitter. I was in second place. None of the above actually was in second place. I beg your pardon. Thanks, guys. Love ya. What else do we know about you guys, just kind of as a population? We got a pretty decent-sized response to please give us your email address. Online survey takers frequently don't do that. Again, I think that's more reflective of the sample. These are folks we know. And we pinky swore not to send you any online advertising using your email address, and you guys probably believed us. So, first off, the first thing we wanted to know really was what kind of social media do you use? And how often do you use it? What you're seeing on the right-hand side is what is called a share chart, and the numbers at the top are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those numbers represent rankings. So, for example, this first row is Facebook. The biggest bar is the red bar. The red bar is the first rank. So we said, please rank these by how frequently you use them. And we included a not applicable category, so you could basically tell us that you didn't use something at all. Facebook by far then was the most common one, the one people use most often. Twitter comes in at a pretty clear second, and LinkedIn comes in at a pretty clear third, which wasn't surprising. Lots of folks don't use Instagram or Tumblr at all, and G+, not as much. I would actually say this is probably pretty reflective of the general population, so that wasn't very surprising. The next thing we wanted to know was this question about, is emailing a video more effective than posting it on social media? And what was really fascinating, this is probably one of the most interesting results we got, is that an emailed video, something that you got in email, the most popular response was, if I see something in email, I click on it later if I have time. And almost even was, click on it to see if it's interesting. By contrast, if you had an email, or if you had a video posted through LinkedIn or Twitter or Facebook, the far and away the most popular choice was to click on it and see if it was interesting. Now, this could be a reflection of how people use email. If you're running through your email, you're going to get to the most important things first. And then if you have time and you see other content or other things that you're kind of interested in looking at, you'll click on them second. The other problem is that maybe I should have asked the question differently. So when I asked you about email, I gave you the opportunity to say, I'll look at it later if I have time. There is no such option here in the social media question. So on the social media question, I never gave you the opportunity to tell me that sometimes you just wait and look at it later. In social media, there's less opportunity to do that. There's a little bit of functionality in like Twitter and Facebook, or Twitter in specific, for you to favorite something and come back to it. So that was a lesson to perhaps ask the question differently, although watch it immediately actually did a lot better on social media than it did in email, even though there were other options available. So that was an interesting response. The second thing we asked you was about your television and movie viewing habits. So what we were trying to get to here was, how are you viewing content that you want to view, content that you are wanting to consume, such as television or movies? And the first thing we see is, how do you watch TV? Again, we asked you to rank them by what do you watch most often, second most often, third most often, etc. We should have had a not applicable category available here. A lot of folks told us in the comments that there should be a not applicable, as in, I never watch television on cable or broadcast, or I never watch iTunes. It didn't occur to us that was a good suggestion. Another comment that came through that we hadn't thought about was that some of these are not available outside the US. And again, that not applicable would have helped. Also, knowing where you're living would have helped. As for how folks watch television, Netflix and cable or broadcast come in pretty much neck and neck as the most popular. Netflix is bigger on the second most popular, so it looks like a lot of folks who said cable was their first choice have Netflix as their second. A lot of folks are also using DVD and Blu-ray as their primary source, or at least a secondary or tertiary source of watching television. Other internet comes in pretty high. That does include perhaps watching it in ways that the people who made this stuff would not approve of. Very little use of iTunes. Another interesting feature here was that a lot of folks had a lot to say about their providers, and none of them were happy. So we saw complaints about Hulu, we saw complaints about Netflix, we saw complaints about broadcast. It looks like no matter how you watch television, you may or may not be happy with it. We got no such complaints about how you watch movies. So again, same idea. Rank these different ways to watch movies by which one you use most often, second most often, third most often. Netflix is far and away the most popular choice. Netflix seemed to be the most popular way to view movies. DVD and Blu-ray come in second. Some folks are using cable and broadcast. It gets a little bit muddy after that. Some folks are watching Hulu. Some folks are using other internet sites. One good suggestion that we should have had that was in the free text was a way to, if you said I watch broadcast or cable, there should have been a way to say I do it in a way that makes sure I don't have to look at the ads, such as TiVo or DVR. Since we are kind of curious about advertising, that would have been a good thing to include. We could certainly add an extra question for that. So again, thank you for that suggestion. Favorite shows and movies? Those two questions. So what we asked you to do was tell us your favorite movie of all time, your favorite movie as a kid, the movie you like that nobody else likes, and the favorite movie that you saw this year. We did that for movies and we did that for TV. These were actually technically memory prompts. So before we asked you about how you watch movies, we had a memory prompt question that got you in the mindset of watching movies. Same idea for television. So these weren't really about the information that we wanted, which was about watching videos online and watching ads online. However, this was arguably some of the most interesting information I saw from my perspective. Best television series you ever saw, Firefly was the clear winner. The Wire was second. We did have one person say that Firefly was the show they liked that nobody else does, which was kind of amusing considering how popular Firefly is with this audience. MASH came in third. So everything on this list, other than MASH, is very recent. It's interesting to us that MASH still has so much staying power. It was the third most popular show. Okay. The television series you like and nobody else likes, these were the top ones again. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Guilty Pleasure, Sledgehammer, I think two folks said Sledgehammer, League, Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip, again there were two responses. These were the most diverse. These are the top ones, they got two responses apiece. Every other one was a single. So these were pretty interesting. I was sitting there at work actually refreshing the page because it was so fascinating to watch what everybody was saying. Best movie you ever saw, Casablanca, not a surprise, always a classic. The Princess Bride and Blade Runner, neither of those is surprising given the audience. The Godfather and Amadeus, another couple of classics. Movies you loved and no one else loved. Hudson Hawk had 4 votes. I have seen Hudson Hawk. If you have not watched Hudson Hawk with the director's commentary, it is worth seeing. Roadhouse came in as a guilty pleasure, and Event Horizon. I have also seen those 2 movies. I did put the full list on my blog. They're in PDF form. I'm going to use them as a watch list because those were absolutely hilarious. Thanks again, everybody, for taking the survey. We got a ton of great content. Again, there's a PDF of the full list of movies and TV, which was the best results we got online.